You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, Internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
Most writers and radio show hosts know that to connect with your fans, you need to do more than just write books or record the latest podcasts. There are many different elements that go into forming an online platform, but there are also many hidden traps. To make matters worse, solid advice on how to survive the muddy waters is scarce. In the book Hidden Traps, I talk about some of the important issues of working with an online platform, highlighting traps that could put your physical or internet security at risk, or be harmful to your reputation. Are your social media posts just links with a few disjointed words, making you look like someone who can't complete a sentence? Did your new website cost you more than you anticipated? Are you leaking your personal contact details across the web without even knowing it? Then you need Hidden Traps. Hidden Traps is now available in paperback and ebook from a variety of retailers, including Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Kobo. Visit blackwolfpublications.com for more details.
If you're 85 or younger, would you like peace of mind and comfort for your family? We're Final Expense Direct with an urgent message for you. The average funeral today costs over $8,000, but the most you'll get from government benefits is $255. How will your family pay the difference? We can help. Our senior plans start as low as just $1 a day and pay up to $30,000 for a funeral and other final expenses. Peace of mind is easy. There's no medical exam. You'll have lifetime coverage, and your plan can't be canceled as long as you pay your premiums. Call now for free information about our senior plans. Answer a few simple questions and receive approval right on the phone. Plus, call right now and we'll give you a discount prescription card for free. Call 800-553-8687. That's 800-553-8687. Again, 800-553-8687.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
Everyone loves liberty. Our rights come from God, not the government. So why are you letting other people tell you what's best for your health care? Exercise your freedom with Liberty Health Share. Liberty Health Share is a community of people who voluntarily share one another's medical costs. Liberty Health Share is founded on the idea that most people truly want to help one another. Healthcare sharing allows members to do just that as a true community that supports one another in times of need. Liberty believes people should make decisions for themselves and their families. Members are able to take back the freedom to make their own decisions about their health care. Freedom from guilt or doubt about how your money is used. You have the freedom to direct your health care, not to be dictated to by bureaucrats. Stop letting others tell you what to do and join a community of like-minded people. Exercise your freedom. Join Liberty Health Share and take back the control of your health care while helping those around you. Call Liberty at 855-58-LIBERTY. Again, that's 855-58-LIBERTY for more information, or you can check them out at libertyhealthshare.org. Again, that's libertyhealthshare.org.
Here's George Foreman with InventHelp.
Hi, I'm George Foreman. Do you have an idea for a new product or invention? People ask me all the time, George, how do I get my idea in front of companies? How do I get a patent? What do I do next? Do you have the same questions? I'll tell you like I'll tell them all. Call my friends at InventHelp.
Call InventHelp today for free information. InventHelp has been helping inventors for more than 30 years and has sales offices nationwide. InventHelp can submit your invention to companies who are interested in receiving new ideas. If you have an idea and want to try to patent it and submit it to companies, you should call InventHelp today for free information.
Listen, I can't guarantee a company will be interested in your idea, but I believe every inventor deserves the opportunity to step into the ring and take their best shot. Put InventHelp in your corner.
To get your free inventor's information, call 1-800-353-6490. That's 1-800-353-6490. Again, 1-800-353-6490.
At St. Jude, a family never sees a bill at all. It's like the world has been lifted off of your shoulders.
St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
Sometimes riders feel lost, unsure why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing into full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, offering manuscript critiques and line edits through a mentoring editorial style. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services, visit blackwolfeditorial.com.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country.
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. The only way they can inherit the freedom we have known is if we fight for it, protect it, defend it, and then hand it to them with the well-taught lessons of how they in their lifetime must do the same.
All right, folks, well, happy Tuesday evening, or as I like to call it, not Monday. I swear they should just change that on, like, the calendars, you know, the days of the week calendars. It just should say Monday, not Monday, hump day, Friday Eve, thank God it's Friday. That should be what the calendar says.
I like that. Let's start a change.org petition.
Well, you know, everybody else is revising history. I vote we revise the calendar.
Yeah, absolutely.
At least it would accomplish something, because then I could literally say, look, it's not Monday. All right, so anyway, this is Jen and Rick. I'm one half of the crew, Mr. Rick Robinson. She's the other half, Miss Jen Olmstead. And we have lots and lots and lots of stuff to talk about. The bad news is I really don't want to talk about any of
it. I know. I feel, this weekend and the beginning of this week has just been practically insufferable if you're engaged in politics at all on social media. I mean, it has been really rough.
You're white, so you're racist.
Well, yeah, I'm a Nazi.
You're breathing, so you're racist.
Yeah, basically. I mean,
racist.
It's just everything. Everything is racist.
Oh.
That should be the next parody.
Where are Al and Beaker when you need them? But I'm really not sure I want them to do a parody to the tune of Everything is Awesome. No, see, you don't understand. Because I met the most awesome guy, and it was weird because it was during that time when JD really wasn't being very active. So I met JD's Irish brother from another mother, who also happened to be named JD. And that's what he did all through CPAC. Anytime anything weird started happening, he just started walking around singing Everything is Awesome. And I'm just like, oh my God, this guy is as crazy as JD with an Irish accent, and it just happens to go by the same initials. Because, it was just kind of weird. But
That's
anyway.
Funny. Well, working, I always, whenever things start to fall apart, whenever I have these big events, inevitably there's 4 or 5 huge crises that happen during the middle of it. And the, whoever their management is, freaks out. Whoever the client is freaks out. The sound guys freak out, all of this. And I'm the event manager and the venue manager, and I'm trying to hold all the pieces together, and all of these people, in order to try to correct things, end up just making things spin further off the rails. And it always is, it can quickly devolve into a big mess. And so my team always knows that if they are asking me something and I walk by, usually I'll just put my hands up and I'll go, everything is awful, and just keep walking. And they're like, oh crap, that's the telltale little sign, little sing song that I do, that they're like, uh-oh, she only does that when big stuff's happening. So it works with this too. Everything is racist. Everyone is racist.
But see, that's the thing. You're only racist if you're conservative. And just to prove this point, I actually saw this on Facebook last night, and I'm not going to mention the person's name because I'm not sure if they were pointing it out or if it's honestly what they believed. But they literally said, if you've never heard of the phrase left libertarian, it's the same exact thing as a regular libertarian, because you want small government, this, that, and the other. It just means you're not racist. And I'm like, huh? Wait. So the only way that you can be equated with not being a racist is to put the word left in front of whatever title you decide to call yourself. So in order to appease everyone, I should start using the title left conservative? Left libservative? Left conservatarian? No. I mean, look.
Well, honestly, that just, I wouldn't go around saying that, because that just makes you part of a certain club named after a pretty staunch conservative of our past. So that's how they identify. So I would probably not do that.
You said club. I think I know what you're talking about.
I think a lot of people will know what I'm talking about.
Wait, are you talking about that certain club whose founding member was mentioned on a certain podcast and then decided he was going to pursue legal action for said being mentioned on certain podcasts?
Something like that.
Okay, just clarifying. All right, so I mean, look, the whole point with this is it's nuts. All of this is insane. We literally at this point we have. And this is the scariest part, because nobody's talking about this part. So you have the nationalists, right, which are basically, authoritarians. You have the Antifa folks, which, whether they want to talk about it or not, are basically totalitarian. They have their founding principles typically revolve around socialism, communism, etc. So you're literally talking about two separate forms of progressivism that are currently going to war with each other in this country, and those of us that don't want anything to do with progressivism are standing on the outside going, what the hell is happening, and how am I getting lumped in with these people, and how do we fix it? Oh, well, you want them to leave those statues alone in the South? Well, yeah, because they're part of history. Those who don't understand history are doomed to repeat it. Those statues are ways to bring up conversations. You can take your children down there and explain, this is this person, this is when they were alive, this is what happened, and this was their role in it. And it gets people talking about it, so we understand it. And it's insane to me that there was a group of people within, the last 24 hours that literally were allowed as a group of protesters to pull down a statue. If you or I decided to go somewhere and pull down a statue, we'd be in jail right now.
Absolutely. The idea that, first of all, that statue in Durham, I had a really hard time when I was watching the coverage afterwards of these people go over and kind of flop their foot on top of it, and some people kind of spit on it. There was a guy with a guitar that he went over and he kind of not even very wholeheartedly kind of plopped his foot around it. But then some people were really aggressively kicking it, and they're all screaming at it, and they're cheering each other on. And I'm going, wait, what? What are you even doing? This looks really silly, actually. You got the statue down, and now y'all are kicking a hunk of metal that is now deformed. And that statue in the first place, it was an honor to the men that died. It was in memoriam of men that died from that area that died in the Civil War. And yes, I know they were Confederates, but it was not some Confederate general or some specific Confederate historical figure. It was just a statue of a guy. And that represented nobody except for all of the men who died. And I have a really hard time getting outraged about that. And I think this whole Confederate memorial and honoring, I think there are a lot of good arguments for toning that down and maybe bringing some of those things down. This is not the way to do it. I think there are also good arguments for keeping them, but this is not the way to do it. And it is destruction of property. And where the heck were the police?
Well, no, here's my thought on this. And I can't take credit for this because I actually heard it on the way to work today. But it was Dino Lally, the movie critic dude, was on one of the local shows. I don't know if he's nationally known, but he's a local pretty much legend here because he was their movie reviewer for forever on Channel 5 here, which was the ABC affiliate. But anyway, so he was pointing out, that the important thing about these monuments and these statues and these parks that were named after these people in the South wasn't necessarily that it was about honoring the people that had lost the war. It was about the fact that we were pretty much the only country on the planet that would actually be willing to allow people to erect monuments to differing ideas. And we apparently are no longer allowed to do that, unless, of course, there are ideals that people seem to espouse. And my problem with them tearing down statues and renaming parks, and I just heard about on the way home today, they're talking about renaming a high school in Tulsa because it was named after Robert E. Lee, because of everything that's been going on in the South. That means that this crap is coming to my state now, which is unacceptable to me. I don't understand the revisionist idea. I don't understand, especially doing it under violence. But what I really don't understand is what they think they're accomplishing by wiping this stuff off the face of the map. Because they're changing the dynamic of this country. This country used to be about differing ideals coming together and finding a way to make them work. We're not about that anymore. We're not about that on any level anymore. State, federal, local, it doesn't matter. It's all about party or nothing, my way, highway, nobody cares, we're going to get it done, it's going to be my way, if you don't like it, there's the door. That's not what this country was about, it's not what this country has ever been about, but it's what this country is about now. And that's what concerns me about these things that are happening all over the place, is because it's literally small groups of people forcing their will upon other people and changing the landscape around them just because they think they have the ability to do so, because they feel like they're entitled to do these things. And they're not. Look, I get it. If you live in the South and you don't like driving by Robert E. Lee Park, or you don't like doing this, or you don't like doing that, then petition your government locally to make those changes. You live there. It's your state. You have the ability to make those decisions. But don't let small groups of bullies tell you how you should think and what you should feel. That's what's pissing me off.
Well, I think that it even, for me, I agree with people that the argument of, oh, you're just trying to forget history and that means we're going to, I don't really buy that so much. It's still being taught in our schools. There are still going to be plenty of things left intact. There are lots of things in museums, dedicated to the Civil War, whole wings of museums dedicated to the Civil War. So I don't think that that's, the best argument. I think it is an argument. I just don't think it's the best one. I don't think it's the most compelling argument. I do think that a lot of people tend to extremely oversimplify what was a very, very complex situation and time in our country in which family fought family, neighbor fought neighbor, and friend fought friend. That really tore through a lot of people. And let me remind you that we are also either willfully ignorant of the fact or choose to I think it is willful ignorance that the way that we have kind of driven this narrative that these people, that every single person in the South was in favor of slavery and wanted to die or was willing to die to save it, as opposed to the fact that most of both of these armies were conscripted service. And if people don't understand what that means they were drafted to do it simply from being by the state that either seceded or stayed in the Union. And that is a real big part of this. Most of these people could not own slaves. Most of the people did not own slaves in the South. Most of the people that lived in the North, even if they had wanted to, couldn't have afforded it. So let's not try to put some false moral high ground on those that just happen to live in the North and so were conscripted to the Union Army versus those in the South that were conscripted to the Confederate Army, and that's not really the bulk of who was doing the fighting here and the bulk of who died. They were not a part of the political and economic and otherwise racial games that the leaders at the top were, and to deny that or to overlook that, I think is actually really harmful and does these men no justice that literally fought and died on American soil against people that they did not actually hate. They did not want to have beef with. And it's unfortunate that this country went through this Civil War, but I think, it was something that at the time they felt they had to press and make happen, and nobody was perfect on either side, and the intentions and the motives weren't even great just because it was the Union. So I think that we really have tried to make this into something that is much too simplistic to be able to grasp the real, the real deep-seated kind of infiltration that it had on the lives of every single person in this country, and not all that agreed with what was going on or even had a choice in the matter. And it's a real disservice to them and to ourselves for our history, our purposes of remembering what happened and moving forward as a nation as we continue to move away, farther and farther away from that time period, to not remember that and not to look at this in a more intellectually honest way. And I'm just kind of really getting fed up with all of the crap about it. And I am not someone who even cares if I ever see a Confederate flag again. And I don't really care if any certain city or state or university or whatever wants to have a monument, or if they want to put them all away. I don't care. But I think that we are starting to get to a point, because of this racial divide and because of the insistence upon everyone to, like, where I am not a racist and I denounce not only Nazism, not only white supremacy, but I denounce, the South in general, and anybody that spawns from the Confederacy as being traitors and hateful and bigots. And if you can't get on board and want to spit on all of those monuments too, then you are right there with them.
I mean, look, honestly, at the end of the day, I don't really care about who's protesting in what way or who's doing what, as long as they're doing it in a peaceful manner. Spitting on a monument is one thing, tearing it down is another. My other issue is, this comment pissed a lot of people off, so I might as well just run with it on here too. Now, I will admit that at the end of the day, those protests on Saturday turned violent, but at the beginning of that particular scenario, there was only one group that was there lawfully, that had followed the process of getting a permit, that had gotten permission from the city to do their little march with their tiki torches and their little Pillsbury Doughboy rolling pins on their shields, or whatever you want to call them. And then these people that were getting irritated because they were there had decided to start forming counter-protests. My issue with all of that, and the thing that still, to this day, I haven't really heard anybody talk about, is the fact that the police really didn't do anything until they absolutely had to, even though some of those groups were there and were not assembled legally. I have a problem with that. Not only because of my background, but because of the fact that that's putting people in danger. I mean, literally, I've read story after story after story of basically the police being told not to intervene unless ordered to. From my background, I can tell you that that is not a common occurrence. Now, I will tell you that as police officers, you ultimately do work under the mayor, but there is a commanding officer for the police department, whoever they may be, and ultimately your orders are supposed to come from them, and their orders come from the mayor. So if a mayor was basically telling people to sit on their hands, and someone was killed because of it, is it the fault of the protesters at the end of the day, or is it really the fault of the leader of that city who decided that he wasn't going to do anything for whatever reason that he had to do those things? And that's part of what I'm tired of, is everybody politicizing every little thing about all of this. We're literally talking about totalitarianism versus authoritarianism, and I don't want anything to do with either one of them, and I'm tired of being lumped in with all of it, and I want all of them to go home, if you want me to be completely honest with everybody. Just saying.
Yeah, I do too. And I do think, there was a real, I don't know if it was like a breakdown in the leadership, if there was just an outright stand down order or whatever, but a lot of things that some people don't know happened, because it's obviously not going to be covered very widely. But whenever this rally, they had this permit to be there for this rally. This wasn't just like, hey, let's just all go and start yelling and wave signs. They had speakers planned. There was an entire program. They had this whole thing set up to have there. And when they decided, pretty much minutes before the rally is supposed to start, before this event is supposed to start, they decided to cancel it. The city canceled the permit. Well, there had been somewhat of a barricade, and there were people around the perimeter that were protesting, and there were police not necessarily standing in between, in the fill-in in between the barricades. There was some of that, but definitely in the perimeter area were police, and they were letting them, do some of the stuff, which I'm fine. Like, let them throw Coke bottles at each other, let them spit at each other and scream at each other and wave their fists around, and, a few little brawls here or there, broke out and then were squashed. So we're talking about some black eyes and some bumps on the head. Then, and hateful words, of course. I mean, there were people saying awful things to each other from either side. So that's happening too. But then what happened was when they decided to cancel this rally, they dispersed all of these nationalists there for the rally, the white nationalists, the white supremacists, the alt-right, Nazis, whoever was there for this. They immediately started to push them out of the park and disperse them into what was waiting. What was all surrounding the perimeter for the anti-protest. That's where you had Antifa. That's where you had, some people that it was not an organized Black Lives Matter group, but there were people, wearing their shirts and saying their things, holding up signs in favor of them, where you had just people that are just simply there to protest in general, that they are protesting their racism, allowed to do that. And I support their right to do that. But it had turned into, a fairly loud and angry mob by this point, and then you are kicking out all of the white nationalists from the park and pushing them directly into that with no police organization. That was a complete and utter failure, and it was absolutely stupid to do that. And then you had, the governor go on and throw the police under the bus and say, we could never have matched up because they all were carrying around semi-automatic weapons. Like that means machine guns. I mean, the way he said that, we're like, oh, most handguns are semi-automatic. Like, what the hell are you even talking about? You obviously don't know guns, and you're just trying to fearmonger here. And then he says, they were outmatched. There was no way for them to be said. They could not have da-da-da-da-da. And he just went on and on and on. And he was talking about their weaponry, which was really kind of specific and weird. And the police chief came out and said, that is absolutely not true. We were told to stand down. So, shocker here that I really think that there was a lot of political motivation going on here in order to smear the right and bolster, the other side, and because of Trump. And they wanted to also lump all of these people into conservatism, which we have been on the forefront of fighting these alt-righters and have been called every name in the book by them. We've been trolled by them. We've been doxxed by them. We have received terrible treatment by these people on the alt-right online since the primaries. And so please spare me your, BS that I'm somehow related to them when I have been treated awful by them, and I have been calling them out since the very beginning too, as have the bulk of conservatives and Republicans. So I've really had it with all of these political games.
Don't hold back. Tell us how you really feel.
I know. I just got really angry.
My favorite part, flashing back to the primary, was when I started trying to, reason with some of these alt-right buttheads, and basically was told they were going to come find me and shove me in an oven. That was fun times.
Oh, they're really good at that one. That is one of their things they really love to say. But I think they also kind of co-opted a lot of other parts of the more far right movement. So I think there were a lot of people, and because it's been confusing, like what is alt-right? And I think there has been a lot of people trying to say that, well, alt-right is if you are anti-open borders, and if you are, anti-illegal immigration, and if you agree with Trump's Muslim ban, and if, you think that, America should still be able to make its laws and this and this and that. And so, and if you like to push all those memes, and if you have a little bit more, so I think that there were a lot of people that kind of got roped into this thing because they assumed that alt-right was basically anti-left. And so if you're anti-media and you're anti-left, and the alt-right, the left was calling anybody and everybody alt-right. So I think there are a lot of people that really kind of got tripped up in this, that thought, oh, I must be alt-right, because there wasn't some, especially in the beginning, there wasn't some really definitive answer on what alt-right meant. And so there are a lot of people that I think mistakenly called themselves alt-right, or thought that they were should be allied with them, because it simply meant, against the left. And a lot of that has been sorted out, I think. But I still think that there are people that, aren't on Twitter, that are in real life, that think that they are alt-right until they see Nazis and they go, well, I'm not that. That's not alt-right. That's Nazism. And they're correct, but they've blended quite a bit. And we've known that for a long time, that the true alt-right is more of the white supremacy wing of this political group. But I think a lot of people have not really understood what it was and have made it seem larger than it is because they've called themselves that when they're not really.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's the biggest thing. A lot of people that have glommed onto the alt-right thing or whatever title they're going by these days basically did it because they thought it was cool. Oh, hey, I'm not one of these boring old conservatives. I'm one of the new conservatives, and we call ourselves alt-right. And then they're like, why are there a bunch of people wearing Nazi crap walking around where I'm at? This isn't what I signed up for. And we're like, yeah, actually, it just kind of is. You just didn't notice. Speaking of things that you didn't sign up for, Mitt Romney has apparently taken to Twitter in regards to this whole Antifa white supremacist standoff. And apparently, Nazis are bad, but commies are good, according to Mitt. We'll talk about that when we get back. We got to take a break.
Most writers and radio show hosts know that to connect with your fans, you need to do more than just write books or record the latest podcasts. There are many different elements that go into forming an online platform, but there are also many hidden traps. To make matters worse, solid advice on how to survive the muddy waters is scarce. In the book Hidden Traps, I talk about some of the important issues of working with an online platform, highlighting traps that could put your physical or internet security at risk or be harmful to your reputation. Are your social media posts just links with a few disjointed words, making you look like someone who can't complete a sentence? Did your new website cost you more than you anticipated? Are you leaking your personal contact details across the web without even knowing it? Then you need Hidden Traps. Hidden Traps is now available in paperback and ebook from a variety of retailers, including Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Kobo. Visit blackwolfpublications.com for more details.
If you're 85 or younger, would you like peace of mind and comfort for your family? We're Final Expense Direct with an urgent message for you. The average funeral today costs over $8,000, but the most you'll get from government benefits is $255. How will your family pay the difference? We can help. Our senior plans start as low as just $1 a day and pay up to $30,000 for a funeral and other final expenses. Peace of mind is easy. There's no medical exam. You'll have lifetime coverage, and your plan can't be canceled as long as you pay your premiums. Call now for free information about our senior plans. Answer a few simple questions and receive approval right on the phone. Plus, call right now and we'll give you a discount prescription card for free. Call 800-553-8687. That's 800-553-8687. Again, 800-553-8687.
Here's George Foreman with InventHelp.
Hi, I'm George Foreman. Do you have an idea for a new product or invention? People ask me all the time, George, how do I get my idea in front of companies? How do I get a patent? What do I do next? Do you have the same questions? I'll tell you like I'll tell them all. Call my friends at InventHelp.
Call InventHelp today for free information. InventHelp has been helping inventors for more than 30 years and has sales offices nationwide. InventHelp can submit your invention to companies who are interested in receiving new ideas. If you have an idea and want to try to patent it and submit it to companies, you should call InventHelp today for free information.
Listen, I can't guarantee a company will be interested in your idea, but I believe every inventor deserves the opportunity to step into the ring and take their best shot. Put InventHelp in your corner.
Get your free inventor's information. Call 1-800-353-6490. That's 1-800-353-6490. Again, 1-800-353-6490.
Are right, folks, welcome back. This is the Jen and Rick Show, and I almost said the show I do after this one instead, which is becoming a really bad habit. I noticed that the other day when I was doing the Robinson and Wright Show with Dan. I came back in and announced it as America Off the Rails and was like, oh crap, wrong day of the week, my bad. All right, so anyway, before we went to break, I noticed something that really kind of annoys me, because the same guy that reminded us during the 2012 presidential run that Russia was one of our greatest geopolitical foes, which happened to be a true statement at the time, by the way, even though everybody made fun of him, basically just, and I'm not sure if he just kind of pulled this out of nowhere, if it was a subtweet to somebody, but it was, this is from 7:14 p.m. I guess I must have missed it because I had just finished an interview. No, not the same. One side is racist, bigoted, and Nazi. The other opposes racism and bigotry. Morally different universes. So that was Mitt Romney's answer to why the Nazis are bad, but apparently Antifa is good. Not seeming to mention again, or seeming to notice the same thing that you and I have been talking about for this entire episode, that they are literally two halves of the same coin coming from opposite ends of the spectrum. One is authoritarian and the other one is totalitarian, but they're still the same basic concept of
they both want to silence people. They both want to literally beat people into agreeing with them, into thinking with them, and they are both violent. They both disrupt and cause chaos pretty much everywhere they go. And I will say one thing. This time it's kind of weird because Antifa's the one with face covered. You know, the KKK used to walk around with hoods on, and they are showing their faces, which leads us into another thing we can talk about in a minute, which is trying to identify all of them in order to get them fired and shame them from their lives. But I don't understand how somebody, all I can think of is that I have talked to some people recently who, because they aren't getting some of the other news sources that, like, I get so much of my news on Twitter because videos are shared. You know, there are independent reporters that aren't with CNN, aren't with Fox News, aren't with CBS, that are on the ground and they are documenting this stuff. They are interviewing people there. They're getting really raw footage. And there are a couple really great sources for that. And I think that we are seeing a lot more. We dive into it a lot more than your average person does that might watch a couple of these shows, you know, maybe with dinner or after they're done eating and they're sitting on the couch for a little bit and they'll turn on the news for a little while and they'll watch one of these 24-hour news networks. And, you know, unfortunately, most of the time, what they're going to see about Antifa is that they're opposed to Trump. They're countering, you know, racists and bigots and sexists and of any kind. And that, sometimes they've gotten a little bit out of control, but, you know, mostly they're just fighting against all of this really bad, crappy stuff. And they're leftists. I talked to some real world people recently, and they had no idea about some of the stuff that they've instigated. They had no idea because of the way it was covered that how incredibly violent they were at Berkeley and the property destruction and other such that went on at their hands. They more thought that that was some of this kind of rogue stuff. And then also they thought they attributed it to the people that were Trump supporters. They had no idea that it wasn't those people. So I think some of this is bad information. I wonder if Mitt maybe doesn't really have a clue. I mean, he has been vacationing a lot, which he should. He's retired. But maybe he doesn't quite know what's going on here. And he's thinking we're just talking about the anti-protesters as opposed to Antifa as this group and all the things they've been doing, in particular the last 6 months, but even for the last year or more.
I mean, you know, and, well, first of all, Mitt's getting old. Let's just be honest. Second of all, you're right, he's retired. So, I mean, I don't know if he's been paying attention, but that's kind of my whole point. If you really don't understand what the hell is going on, the last thing you should really do is come on Twitter and be like, no, it's a completely opposite thing because these people are standing for truth, justice, and the American way. No, they're not. They're beating the crap out of people with masks over their faces. I mean, that's the same thing that I've been talking about with everybody that I can, because it's like everybody is terrified because of these supposed Nazi morons. Let me tell you what I think of when I see some idiot walking down the street with a tiki torch carrying a shield with a rolling pin on the front. I think of the dude from Hogan's Heroes. Remember the big fat Nazi guard, Sergeant Schultz? That is what these people remind me of as far as these big scary Nazis. You want to talk about the people that are scaring me right now? It are the ones that are literally running around with masks over their faces and beating the crap out of people just because they can. Those are the ones, I mean, and I'm not saying we shouldn't be calling out the Nazis and paying attention to the Nazis either, but we really need to be paying more attention to the ones that seem to be getting the free pass, that seem to have the hearts and minds of the media, that seem to, for the last several years, have the ear of the president. Because let's not forget that folks like both Black Lives Matter, which is kind of where Antifa kind of got started for the most part, remember those folks used to get invited to the White House on a regular basis. So, I mean, this is a really scary thing that we're talking about here. We're literally talking about people that have become so enraged over whatever they're enraged about that they just do whatever they want, whenever they want to do it, and nobody calls them on it. And if you try to say anything, you're a Nazi.
Well, here's what I mean. I just think I don't understand what is so freaking hard about saying, hey, this is really bad. They are racist and they are instigating, they are being aggressive and sometimes instigating with violence. And then also saying, hey, guess what? They are really bad. They are trying to shut down free speech and they are getting violent and they are being aggressive and instigating things. One is alt-right, one is Antifa or alt-left or whatever, Black Lives, whoever is involved. Why is it so bad to be able to say they really suck and also they really suck and violence is really bad, so stop it? Why? Why? Why can't we just say that?
Because that would make too much sense.
Instead, it's like you're a Nazi sympathizer. No, I literally just said they are terrible and they should be condemned. Also, Antifa is acting terribly and should be condemned. Like, political violence should not be accepted just because of who it is and what their motivations are.
Well, you would think.
Well, I'm just saying, in a sane and just world, we should not accept political violence because you think, well, at least, because we can justify pretty much anything if you want to go there. And we're going to have a bloody mess on our hands in no time. So you don't get to say it was okay, but this whole punch a Nazi thing. No, don't punch a Nazi and don't punch anybody else either. Just don't be violent.
What was it they taught us in kindergarten? Keep your hands to yourself at all times?
Yeah. I know people, my mom used to make my brother sit on his hands when we were on a car ride so that he wouldn't hit me or my sister when he was just being a little pestering little brat of a brother. Sit on your hands then. If you can't use them for something, don't sit on them. This is not so difficult, but we have gone to such extent to, or the media and the left has gone to such an extent to have some sort of moral high ground that they are literally justifying things that, probably 30, 40 years ago, if you had told someone that, well, what do you think about if they just go around and start doing this and this, that they would have said, no, absolutely not. We're supposed to be against that. Martin Luther King is just like, what do you think is happening in his grave right now? I don't understand why we just can't be consistent and intellectually honest when we're looking at these things. And instead, we've got to go through mental gymnastics in order to justify whichever side we're on and how they behave. Quit being children.
Let me put this in the most certain terms that I can. The only side I am on is the side of America, and neither of these groups represent American values. There, I said it. You want to send me hate mail? Fine. Rick at KLRNradio.com. Or you can look me up on Twitter at AOTR_host. Go ahead. I've been getting hate ever since I helped Dana a couple weekends ago. Speaking of which, now thanks to all these protests, she's right back in the middle of the muck again. Because people are like, see, we told you the NRA was a bunch of white racists, because that ad with the clenched fist of truth, that was exactly what they wanted to have happen, is what happened this weekend. No, it kind of really wasn't, you morons. I'm so over all of it. I'm just done. I mean, literally, as much as I'm talking about telling people they need to keep their hands to themselves, I'm literally getting to the point where I'm ready to be one of the ones out in the middle of the street just punching people just because I'm going to be like, I'm not a Nazi. Ugh, shut up. I'm not racist. Shut up. I mean, I'm done with it. I mean, I'm so sick of being called names just because I'm standing up for what I think this country is supposed to have been founded on. Yeah, go ahead.
I think the left and the media, I mean, they have been practically gleeful that this has gone down. I mean, this is what they have wanted. They've wanted to be able to say, see, look, right-wing violence, and, this is dangerous and bad and da-da-da-da-da. Okay, well, I really don't appreciate you, first of all, getting off on that, because that is sick and twisted, and how dare you. But, it's happened on the right, too. When there's a terrorist attack of some kind or whatever, they're like, told you it was a Muslim. Like, it happens on both sides. I absolutely agree. And it's disgusting on both sides when you start gloating about violence and in some cases death, like the young woman who died here who did not deserve that. So it's just getting so crazy though, because I just feel like they have been pushing so hard for this right-wing violence narrative, and that the right wing is dangerous, and that we're fascists, and that we're Nazis. And they have been calling good people. They have smeared so many good people with the Nazi label. And now that we are faced with a really small group of stupid, actual wannabe Nazis, they are just hoping that they can really finally get this to stick and be able to have that be everything that is right of center. And they are just giddy with being able to have this opportunity. And so it doesn't matter how much we condemn what the Nazis and we condemn the alt-right. It doesn't matter how much we denounce racism. This is the broad brush that they want to paint with. They've been trying for so long. They already were starting to succeed. And I'm afraid that this just kind of puts the nail in the coffin.
Yeah.
And by the way, they talk about dangerous rhetoric. That's dangerous. They want to talk about what's dangerous. What's dangerous is calling, half of the country literally Nazis all the time. That's dangerous. But, it's excusable because they think they're morally right and just.
I don't know. I guess people think that I'm giving them a pass because I'm constantly making fun of them. But my thing with this whole Nazi thing on Saturday, look, if they were trying to intimidate people, running around with tiki torches was the last way to do it. They literally looked like the light in the loafers Nazi brigade.
Oh, I thought it was so laughable. But, then you've got people that were shaking and crying and scared for their lives. And I'm going, okay, because of citronella? Like,
I mean, what, are you, a mosquito? I mean, what is, are you having a reaction?
Not only that, but
it
was a really tame, how this started on Friday was really tame. Was it obnoxious, or do they suck? Yes. But I mean, it was a tame, orderly, march, and there was no real issues at that time. It started breaking out a little bit later, but people, I do understand wanting to, shed light on this kind of thing, because it, kind of opens our eyes to stuff that we don't really want to believe, and it exposes these people for who they are. But I also think that there is such thing as giving, such a small group of people way too much attention, and other people feed off of that. And I think that there was just much ado about nothing initially. This rally, once the Friday night thing was broadcast, and like they interrupted, scheduled programming in order to have like special live reports showing these guys pretty mildly like little pasty mama's boys straight out of the basement after they stopped at Walmart to get their tiki torch that they had to borrow. They had to ask someone for a lighter for, because it's so stupid that then we went into all of this, live coverage, and they were just anticipating and hoping for violence. And it was 24/7, really fanned a lot of flames, I think. And I'm not saying you don't cover this kind of stuff. I think you do, but it was so overblown. And to try to pretend that several hundred people marching with tiki torches and their khakis and white polos with their hair spiked is representative of the entire right, and what they've been fearing all along from us it's just asinine.
I mean, there's just no other way to put it. One of the things that I think is interesting, and nobody seems to be talking about this either, was David Duke being there, because that's one of the things that I keep having thrown in my face, was because David Duke kept talking about Donald Trump and how they voted for Donald Trump because he said he was going to put America first and he was going to do this and he was going to do that. So David Duke is or was a confirmed member of the KKK. I don't know, at this point I've lost track. But correct me if I'm wrong, what party was he registered with again?
Oh, you're not allowed to say that.
Oh, so
that's not playing fair.
So I'm not supposed to mention that he is actually a registered Democrat and also a confirmed former or possible current member of the KKK?
Irrelevant.
Oh, okay. Well, I really don't care whether anyone thinks it's relevant or not, because it is. I mean, it's just, this is all stupid. I mean, it's just like we've been saying for the entire show. Nazis are bad. We get it. But here's the thing. Do you want them to go back and hide under rocks and allow it to fester and continue to grow quietly? Or do you want them to be at the forefront so you can see what's going on and point and laugh at them while they walk past you with a tiki torch with a rolling pin on their shield, LARPing because they're so cool that they think they're going to take over the world? I mean, it's literally like watching a Pinky and the Brain episode. I mean, it really is. I mean, it is seriously that laughable. What is not laughable are the reactions to them. And the fact that, again, and I hate to point this out, but it's just like you said, at the beginning of this, it was fairly orderly. It was fairly civil. They looked like a bunch of gay people running around with torches. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. I'm not supposed to use that word anymore. But I don't care anymore. And then it turned violent when other people came around. I have a question, because when other people were tearing down a monument yesterday, where was the counter protest for that? I didn't see one. I didn't see anybody around. These people got violent on their own and took it upon themselves to tear down a statue. It wasn't a reaction to other people that were being violent. It wasn't a reaction to hate. It was, well, we're going to march now because they got to march on Saturday, and watch, because when we're done, we're going to tear this down. We're going to show these racist bastards exactly what we think about them. And that's exactly what that was. And that's what needs to stop. Again, if you guys want to remove that type of stuff from the South, I don't live in the South. I don't give a damn what y'all do. But if you're going to do it, then do it legally. Petition your government to make the changes, if that's what you want to do.
Well, and it's actually the main reason why I wasn't... Not that I don't, obviously I believe in free speech, but that I was kind of like, why are they protesting this in Virginia? Because the whole thing that they were there to protest, was some removal of stuff. And that was about, that was already going through the measures that it should. So that was after the city council voted and had held town halls and had, heard from constituents on the matter before making that vote. And so that's how it's supposed to be done. And yeah, you can still protest it if you want, but you shouldn't get to come from Ohio and demand something happen or not happen in Virginia. That's not your locale. And you didn't vote for the people that are representing the locals there. So I'm totally fine with going about it. And in fact, I'm not just totally fine. That's the way it should happen. Destroying property or demanding that someone sign an order to make it all happen is absolutely not the right way to go. And I know that we're leading quickly down the path of, an executive order. And not that I'm saying Trump will do it. I just mean that is going to be the push, that there's a federal order to put these monuments down and to, strike the Confederate, names of Confederates from schools, public buildings, parks, anything like that. That's the road we're headed down. But as it stands right now, it should be up. And I said this to some people. I said, if Nomo Statue, Georgia, wants to hold a Saturday morning vote and have their constituents in No Mo Statue, Georgia, vote to take down the statue of X, Y, and Z Confederates, then fine. And they vote to do it, then great. That's what they wanted to do. That's the way this should all be done. It's called federalism, and that used to be a really important thing.
Yeah, well, it's not really anymore because they went from they don't. Care.
It's actually what we fought It's actually part of what we fought the war over. To be quite honest,
but yeah,
the first. But yeah. I mean.
Well, we've gone from federalism to feelism because it's all about the feels anymore. There's another side of this that nobody's talking about other than a handful of people that I see talking about on Twitter here and there. With these being two halves of the same coin, I guarantee you there is a group funding each one behind the scenes. And I hate to say this because it's going to make people want to bust out their tinfoil hats, but this is exactly what we used to pay someone by the name of George Soros to do in other countries.
Yes. And, that name has been thrown around a lot. I am always kind of hesitant with this. It's like, when something on the right happens, like everybody's really quick. And now, of course, it's the alt-right that always does it. But everybody's really quick to be like, oh, Soros plans. And then when something happens on the left, they're like, Koch brothers, and so it is definitely something to think about and chew on. And for a reporter, I would look into it to try to see if there's anything to find there. But I hesitate to make that much of anything just because it's used so frequently that it's like crying wolf. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not necessarily saying that it's not overused because it has been. I mean, Soros has been a talking point for Glenn Beck for nearly a decade at this point. And you can take or leave.
Which, by the way, there have been very real, Soros activities, Soros funded activities in order to, make certain groups look bad or to instigate certain things. So that is actually pretty undeniable, but it's just that, is it every little thing that makes the right look bad? Probably not.
Yeah, no, and you're probably not, you're right about that. But I mean, the thing that I'm talking about right now is the fact that we literally are to the point where we basically have, I mean, whether you like it or not, we're literally reaching a boiling point. And this type of incitement, this type of getting groups to come at each other, this is exactly what we used to pay him to do in other countries. And what terrifies me is that we have basically let him perfect his craft, and he's been telling everybody that was willing to listen to him for years that he doesn't like this country, that working for the country was a means to an end so that eventually he could bring down the country. And I think he may have actually gotten to that point, whether we want to think about it that way or not. And I mean, I could be wrong. There could be other people behind the scenes funding this stuff. It may not be Soros, but somebody's taking something straight out of his playbook, whether it's him or not, because this is exactly how they used to destabilize other countries. They would stir up animosity between different groups and get them to the point where they were ready to go to war with each other. And whether we like it or not, we are nearly there. And that's what's concerning to me, because there are so many everyday average Americans that are getting swept up in this on one side or the other, because this is just like the elections, but this time we're not talking about votes. We're talking about actual violence. They're doing now what we always talk about doing peacefully, which is every so often we pick up our banner, we march off to war, we plead our case, and we make our votes. They're not talking about just voting anymore. They're literally beating the crap out of each other to change the landscape of this country, which is the things that happen everywhere else but here. And it's disturbing.
It is. It absolutely is. And like I said, it's definitely something worth looking into and considering. Everything is so chaotic. I just don't even... This is one of those times where everyone's running around like their hair's on fire. And I'm like, that we've survived a whole lot of crap in this country. And if this is what's going to bring it down, well, it's going to be from the people within, not because as much as I think that he is incompetent and I think that he is terrible speaking on any issue pretty much, and that he is completely irresponsible in that speech, and especially like Twitter. And as much as I don't care for most of what he represents and what he wants to do, that won't be Trump's fault. These are seeds that were planted long ago and have been, not really growing but festering. So I think that it's going to be the people and us demanding things of each other and wanting conformity, wanting this, wanting all of this, like you have to do this and you have to do that and you have to denounce this and you have to denounce that and you can't say this and you must sell them that, and all these things where everyone's accusing everyone else of being a fascist when in fact they're the fascists. That's going to be what rips us apart.
All right. Well, actually, good place to end it, and completely true, and I couldn't agree more. We are officially out of time, so why don't you remind folks where it is that they can hang out with you when you're not on the radio hanging out with me?
Yes, I am at J Homestead on Twitter, and I'm JR Homestead on Facebook. And then also check out misfitspolitics.com, and our Twitter handle is at misfitspolitics. Tomorrow night's our Misfit Gift Challenge. So if you want to break from the insanity, come join us around 8 p.m. Eastern for that and have a little bit of fun with those crazy gifts.
No, don't. Especially not on Friday nights. I'm boycotting. They kill me off every other weekend.
Yeah, you always end up being the one who dies. Sorry about that.
I'm telling you, you run this thing. I'm really starting to think it's on purpose.
So,
I'm gonna find another
fair,
one that starts with A where the A guy dies.
Well, to be fair, this last week, everyone died. So, because the last option was the person that kills you.
This is true.
So everybody died in that scenario.
All right. Anyway, folks, there is a full hour of America Off the Rails coming up next. Due to the fact that we got a late start on Jen and Rick, it will be later than usual, but stay tuned. We actually have a very special guest coming up. Nope, not giving any hints. You got to stay tuned to find out. And again, if you enjoy what we do here, I do encourage you to follow along on Twitter as well at AOTR_host. Also, you can follow along at KLRN Radio. Make sure you're doing that too. We really got to start giving that out more often because I always forget. Anyway, we're out for the night, folks. We'll be back on Thursday. I'll be back with you here in about a 3-4 minute turnaround to start off and kick off the America Off the Rails for the special Not Monday edition with a very special guest. We'll be right back.